A warm welcome back to the home of champions, Karting Genk, as the action continues for day one of the 2019 BNL Karting Series season. It's time to get back to racing action, and it's Heat 2 in qualification for Junior Max Groups B and C. Danny Van Dijk and Dan Ginchard are on the front row, along with Mike van Vugt and Valentin Plus on row number 2. Jeff Machiels and Max Stemmerdink on row number 3. Mylan Coppens, Will Jenkins, Callum Boyson and Kai Gielets complete the top 10. That's the first 5 rows. Lucas Schoenmakers and Patrick Nolslok-Mellis round out row 6 ahead of Drake Jansen, Gianni Andrisani, Artem Mikhailov, Zen Rudenberg, Christian de Klein, Rasmus Andersson, Daniel Surankov, Flint Schöring, Lars Zenen, Jan Ozopfi, Jaroslav Ziemaszka, Maurice Bechtel, Daniel Hunt and Rasmus Vendelbo rounding out the 26 strong. Again, for this second round of qualifying heats for Junior Max, it's groups B and C, and will be contested over 7 minutes plus 1 additional lap here, as it is remaining dry, but there is still a lot of cloud cover, but it is still remaining dry at the moment. Local time has just gone 12:15 here, Central European time, so if you're in the UK, good morning. And we have 13 rows, a total of 26 Junior Max competitors set to get into battle. So the top 10 is Danny Van Dijk, Dan Ginchard, Mike van Vugt, Valentin Klus, Jeff Machiels, Max Stemmerdink, Mylan Coppens, Will Jenkins, Callum Boyson and Kai Gielets rounding out the top 10. Now they're getting to the latter stages of the formation lap itself, as there's a straggler at the tail end of the field. The red lights are on the starting gantry for Junior Max qualifying heat number 2, groups B and C. The final one will be groups C and A at around about 1 this afternoon. So everyone is shipshape and in Bristol fashion in terms of the lineup. The 2x2 rolling start formation, customary with Rotax Racing, which we've come to enjoy over the last 10 years. And season number 11 has already gotten off to a great start, because are the lights going out? No! Full start call. Full start call. Race control not clearly happy with that one. So it's about resetting and getting back into formation. And false starts can sometimes be called either by people not sticking in the tram lines. They need to remain in them before the lights go out, and then they can go into battle. Until that point, the race director will give them the go or the no-go, as is duly required. That's normally shown by an amber light which flashes on the gantry just above the start-finish line here at Karting Genk. And now they have actually got into formation pretty quickly towards turn 7. So the top 10 again is Van Dijk, Ginchard on the front row, Van Vugt, Klus on row 2, Machiels, Stemmerdink row 3, Coppens and Jenkins row 4, with Boyson and Gielets on row number 5. That is your top 10 as we get ready for take number 2 of the start of this second qualifying heat for Junior Maxes. The top 28 in terms of results in their 2 heats that they compete in will go towards their scores, and the automatically promoted top 28 will go into the final at about 4:15 this afternoon local time. They come through turns 10, now into turn 11. Good control from Danny Van Dijk and Daniel Ginchard on the front row, ready to go here at the home of champions. We will crown some, 8 of them in fact, in October this year, but it's about getting the campaign to a good start, and hopefully some of the drivers will be doing so. Mike van Vugt has already shown that this morning, and there are still some competitors. It's still early days in the season as they head into the tram lines, ready to go. Red lights on the gantry, and we roar into life here, heading down into turn number 1 for the first time in this heat. 7 minutes plus additional lap. Good work by Danny Van Dijk to keep in there, but Dan Ginchard is muscled out slightly by Mike van Vugt, who found space coming through turn 3. And we've already got one off, and that looks to be, couldn't quite catch the number out of my line of sight, but that driver is clearly not happy at all. As Danny Van Dijk has started swinging from the trees, I believe, and has got away from everybody. Dan Ginchard in 4th, it looks like, with Mike Van Vugt in 2nd position now. So Danny Van Dijk leads, Mike Van Vugt, and then Jeff Machiels in 2nd and 3rd. And you've also got the 2:11 of Valentin Klus, looks to be in 5th behind Daniel Ginchard from the UK. The 2:03 of Lucas Schoenemakers has stormed up the field and is in the lower half of the top 10. And looks to be battling with the likes of Callum Voisin and Will Jenkins at this early time. So Schoenemakers up into 7th place behind Milan Koppens from Belgium in the 2:44, who's currently occupying 6th position. Meanwhile, Danny Van Dijk is doing what Mike Van Vugt did in the latter stages of the first qualifying heat, but has got this happening a little bit earlier. However, there's still under 5.5 minutes, plus an additional lap to go, as Van Vugt is being pressured by Jeff Machiels. Don't forget, these two came to blows inadvertently coming through turn 9 on the first race of the kickoff. I spoke with Mike a bit earlier on, and he said, well, yeah, I think he might have just turned into me. And good to hear it from a driver's perspective, but I'd like to hear the other side of that story, if I'm completely honest. As Machiels goes cleanly up the inside of Van Vugt to take 2nd position from the 2:01 from JJ Racing, a 3-time champion, no less, last season. But he knows it's going to be a taller order, as we interviewed him a bit earlier. And he said that he knows that he's got stern competition. But I know, with the calibre that he has in his pocket, so to speak, he can provide great performances and also show what he is capable of. But meanwhile, it is still Danny Van Dijk. The gap was nearly 6/10 between him and Mike Van Vugt on the last tour before Jeff Machiels stole 2nd. But Machiels and Van Vugt are working together. Ginchard is there or thereabouts, probably about 5 or 6 kart lengths behind Van Vugt. The 2:11 of Valentin Klus from Germany still occupying 5th position, and is ahead of the 2:44 of Martin Koppens from Belgium. Callum Voisin in 7th, Max Stevedink in 8th, Lucas Schoenemakers and Kai Heelerts round out the top 10 as we go towards the conclusion of, well, we're actually at the conclusion of the 3rd minute of racing. But look at the battle at the front. Van Dijk coming under pressure from both Jeff Machiels, who's pulling to the right-hand side of him and goes up the inside. Where did that come from, Mike Van Vugt? You absolutely stole that position like candy from a baby off of Danny Van Dijk. Van Dijk just got swamped and couldn't do anything about it. Now here comes Dan Ginchard from the UK in 4th position. 3.5 minutes or so to go, plus an additional lap. So it could be that Danny Van Dijk goes from the lead to 4th within half a lap. So the top 4 now starting to try and pull away. Well, Machiels and Van Vugt are trying to pull away as Van Vugt looks over his right shoulder and goes up and repays the favour into turn 2 as Ginchard overtakes Danny Van Dijk cleanly up the inside and asserts his dominance on the apex of turn number 3 there. Nice work from the 2:54 from the UK. Other drivers that have made incremental increases in terms of position, Milan Koppens and Callum Voisin, have got past Valentin Klus from Germany, who drops to 7th ahead of Max Stevedink, Lucas Schoenemakers and Kai Heelerts. Still occupy the rest of the top 10, and the driver that unfortunately we lost on the very first lap was the Netherlands' very own Christian de Klein in the 2:99, whose car is forlorn on the inside on the grass, well away from the apex of turn number 3. Leaders now coming round towards the final corner, 2 minutes 20 plus an additional lap to go here in this second Junior Max qualifying heat. Van Vugt still ahead, but by only 0.13 of a second, not even that, as Machiels hits the curbs with the 2 right wheels on the apex of turn number 2, trying to keep in touch with Van Vugt. So the gap between the top 3 at the moment is less than 0.6 of a second as Van Vugt takes a quick glance over his right shoulder to see where Jeff Machiels is. And it's not just about strategy, it's also about keeping it clean and keeping out of trouble as well at the same time. And Van Vugt is definitely making up for what happened last month at the kickoff, as he started his title defence with great prowess earlier on this morning. Fastest lap in the meantime has gone to Belgium's Milan Coppens on lap number 5, and he's set a 56.385, quicker than anybody else, but Mike Van Vleuten responds and puts in a 56.301 whilst trying to fend off Geoff Michiels from Belgium in the 2.57. So we're coming down into the final 60 seconds of this race, plus one additional lap. Van Vleuten still has the advantage at the minute. 2 kart lengths between him and Geoff Michiels as they break going into the right-hander at turn 7. Now into the right-hand sweeper at turn 8 before going into the left-hand hairpin at turn number 9. They're both keeping it very, very clean indeed, I must say. Ginchard trying to claw back into that gap between himself and Geoff Michiels, but it's not coming up in any way, shape or fashion at the minute. Milan Coppens in the meantime still sitting pretty in 4th ahead of Danny Van Dijk from the Netherlands. Other changes, Rasmus Andersen now up into 17th position behind Flint Schuring from the Netherlands in the 2.16, as it will be... Oh, there's a clash, a little tap from Geoff Michiels on the back right, I think it was, of Mike Van Vleut's 2.01 kart there, which unsettled Van Vleut and put him sideways to about a 30-degree angle there, but nice control by Van Vleut to keep it on the black stuff. So this is the penultimate lap of this race. Will Van Vleut have a clean answer for Geoff Michiels as they come into turn 9 for the penultimate time? Meanwhile, behind them, Ginchard, Coppens and Van Dijk are pulling along with them. This is a top 5 scrap, and this is going to go down to the wire, I think. Behind them there is a 3-kart battle, which is Voisin, Stemmerdink and Schoenemakers, I believe. So, one more lap to go. Geoff Michiels still leads by 2/10 on Mike Van Vleut, as... Oh, that's very good moves from Milan Coppens, who goes cleanly past Dan Ginchard, it seems, into turn number 2. Asserts his dominance on the apex of turn 3, blocks off the Brit from trying to get past. Meanwhile, Danny Van Dijk is just probably loving the ringside seat he's got at the moment. But Ginchard has got the toe behind Milan Coppens and is going near enough front to rear bumper heading into turn number 7. But the two leaders are starting to get away a little bit. But could it be close but no cigar for Mike Van Vleut from the Netherlands as they go down towards turn 10 for the final time? Van Vleut is going to try and do something here as Ginchard sternly fends off Danny Van Dijk for 4th position. But round the final corner comes the two leaders in the form of Geoff Michiels from GKS Lemons Power in the 2.57. Is he going to fend off Van Vleut? Yes, he does. And, little cheeky tap from behind Mike Van Vleut, I must say. Or did you forget where the brake pedal was? So Geoff Michiels punches the air. And that might have just been, I feel, a little bit of uncontrolled aggression there, maybe, from the 2.01. So it's tit for tat, as they say over in the UK, but Geoff Michiels takes the win in this particular encounter by 0.077 seconds ahead of Mike Van Vleut. Milan Coppens did a great job of fending off both Danny Van Dijk, who actually finished ahead of Dan Ginchard when it was all said and done, so Ginchard rounds out the top 5. Max Stemmerdink finished in 6th position ahead of Callum Voisin, Lucas Schoenemakers and Kai Rielert, who all managed to get past Germany's Valentin Klus, who rounds out the top 10. Patrick Knowles-Lokmelis was ahead of Gianni Andrisani, who I think really didn't go anywhere, finished in 12th position. Will Jenkins in 13th, ahead of Rasmus Vendelbo from Denmark. Then you had Artem Mikhailov and Rasmus Andersen rounding out the top 16 drivers, ahead of Flint Schuring, Jaroslav Shimashka, Lars Zanen, Daniel Sorankov, Zem Rudenberg, Jarno Zoffi, Greg Jansen, Daniel Hunt, with Maurice Bechtel being the last of the classified finishers, with an unfortunate Christian Decline just standing by his car waiting for the recovery truck to come along. So now it is time for our next heat, qualification heat that is, for senior mats, groups B and C. And it looks like the group is as follows. Ilian Brunsils and Charlie Turner on the front row, with Patrick Rundqvist from Sweden having Clayton Ravenscroft alongside for company on row number 2. Mads Ries and Ben Donkin, row 3. Jason Lockwood and Mick Knowlton on row 4. Andreas Herbert and Dylan LaHaye round out the top 10. Ahead of Emily de Hoys, Lorenzo Stolk, Felix Jansson, Rick Boothon, Samuel Harrison, Kian Sang, Arthur Roche, Alex Pendlebury, Henri Young, Nick van der Mosselaar, Vincent van Kerkhoven, Georges Bersis, Anthony Overbeek, Alexander Luck, Clémentine Brunois, Victor Plateau, Fabien Bock, Ren Verheyen, Antoine Antier and Victor Poulsen from Denmark, rounding out the 30 strong in this qualification heat. Again, as with the juniors, it will be another 7 minutes plus 1 lap encounter as they now go onto the formation lap. There's quite a few quick pedallers in the first few rows and probably a few a little bit further down the order. So with 30 senior max drivers in this particular qualification heat, hoping to ensure, because this will be the end of the Group B contingent competing in the qualifying heat, so they've got to make it count this time around. So the top 28 will go through to the Senior Max top 36 race at the end of the day. For those wondering about the timetable, we do not have a prize giving ceremony at 5:15. That will be happening tomorrow at around that time, and we'll make a call out tomorrow evening, tomorrow afternoon when the podium is due. We will keep reminding you via our social media channels and also via the tannoy whilst I'm on commentary. So top 10, it's Ilian Brunsils with Charlie Turner on the front row. Patrick Rundqvist from Clayton Ravenscroft, row 2. Mads Ries, Ben Donkin, row 3. Jason Lockwood and Mick Knowlton, row 4, and Andreas Herbert and Dylan LaHaye rounding out the top 10. Red lights on the starting gantry. We're about to set the timer to 7 minutes plus an additional lap. Are we ready to go racing? Lights out and off they go, heading into turn 1, and it's 3 abreast at the lower part of the top 10 with looks like the likes of Knowlton, De Hoys, Dylan LaHaye. Some drivers going wide. They can do this on the first lap on the runoff area coming out of turn 2. And it's 2 abreast going through turn 5, I think, round about sort of 13th, 14th position. And someone's very opportunistic and has just made up 3 places round the outside of turn 6. Where did that come from? And we've had a melee in the midst of all that with one driver very, very slow and actually parking it at turn 6. So there must have been at least 3 or 4 carts involved. There are 3 stragglers a bit further back. So meanwhile, at the front of the field, it looks like, well, Charlie Turner's hit the front with Brunsils behind. Mads Ries now jumps up from 5th to 3rd position. Patrick Rundqvist and looks also like Andreas Herbert from France rounds out the top 6. This is how close it's going to get. It is going to be close quarter combat with wheels on it as they head through turn 3, 4 and 5. Brunsils coming under scalding pressure as Mads Ries goes back up the inside of him into turn 6. Brunsils returns the favour immediately and did not give the Dane chance to breathe there. They head through turn 7. And I'm just thinking, I think I can see Dylan LaHaye, but Mick Knowlton in the meantime has dropped all the way down to 15th. So with that melee of senior max carts heading in via the runoff area and everywhere else on the asphalt heading into turn 3 earlier, it's caused Mick a bit of a compromise there, but he's behind Arthur Roche, so he's got past Emily de Hoys for 14th. And I think he's also got, he's got past Arthur Roche, I think, on the final corner. Is that Emily de Hoys going up the inside of the Frenchman? I think that very much could be the case. Or could that be Alex Pendlebury? I'm not too sure. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, the top 3 are starting to make a getaway. With, oh no, that's disaster for one kart. And that is the 348. That is the 348 of Ben Donkin. who was spat out, I think. I couldn't really quite see that. I missed that completely. But he was 90 degrees to the right on the straight between turn 6 and 7. That's really compromised his run. He started up in 6th position and was holding station. He's got back underway. Meanwhile, both Charlie Turner and Ilian Brunsils are trying to pull a gap on the driver in 3rd position, which continues to be Denmark's Mads Riis, accrediting himself very well in both OK and also now Senior Max. Very credible young junior last season. Had a chat with him at the kickoff 4 weeks ago, and he was really looking forward to the challenge. So he's got 2 challenges. Like Jules Castro, he's racing in 2 different categories this weekend, so it's double the track time, but also helps with double the preparation, so to speak. So Turner continues to lead from Brunsils, Mads Riis, who's got Andreas Herbert, who's now behind. So the Frenchman now up into 4th position. Good running by the 327. Patrick Rundqvist, in the meantime, rounds out the top 5 ahead of Clayton Ravenscroft, who's made some moves back up the order. So maybe he might have lost out on the very first couple of corners on the first lap when he went 3 abreast going into turn number 3. As Dylan LaHaye absolutely steals a march. That might have been on Jason Lockwood going into turn 2. Nice work by the Belgian. And Charlie Turner has got Ilian Brunsils for company on the run down from turn 6 to 7. Brunsils is within half a kart length as they head in to the sweeper at turn number 8. So it's Turner from Brunsils, from Riis, Andreas Herbert in 4th position with Rundqvist and Ravenscroft, or has there been a positional change? Yes, there has. So Clayton Ravenscroft now up into 5th. So Rundqvist is going to quickly come under fire from Dylan LaHaye. And then you've got Jason Lockwood behind them. You've got, I think that's the 393 of Rick Boothorn there. So Lockwood down into 8th position with Lorenzo Stolk from the Netherlands rounding out the top 10 as the move has happened. Brunsils takes the lead from Charlie Turner on that last tour. 2 minutes plus an additional lap. Turner is trying to mount a fight back on the Belgian in the 3:08 as they come through turn number 9. We've got 2 retirements, unfortunately, with Georgios Beresis from Greece and Brent Verheyen from Belgium no longer taking any part in this. They actually didn't even make it past the end of the first lap, I believe. And hang on, is that a chain guard? Someone lost a chain guard, possibly. Looks very... Oh, 385's just pulled in. And that is Felix Jansson from Sweden. So whether that might have been his chain guard, not too sure. But whoever is running out on circuit and has no chain guard will get a black flag, as Mick Knowlton is trying to get past Lorenzo Stolk, I believe, for position. And goes side by side, up the inside, muscles past, going through turn number 6. So Mick Knowlton making a resurgence, back up from 15th to now what is 11th place, as we go into the last minute of this second qualifying heat for the Senior Max Division, Groups B and C. So Brunsils from Turner, Mads Riis. Clayton Ravenscroft has now got past Andreas Herbert from France. So the Brit now, who's shown what he is capable of. If anyone remembers at the season finale last year, his double overtake around the outside of turn 12 needed to be seen to be believed. Dylan LaHaye now in 6th position ahead of Patrick Rundqvist. And looks like, has there been more changes? Mick Knowlton up into 10th now, having got past Lorenzo Stolk. So it's Brunsils from Turner, Riis, Ravenscroft, Herbert, LaHaye, Rundqvist, Lockwood, Boothorn and Mick Knowlton now rounding out the top 10. So it's this plus one more lap. Brunsils is still being kept, I think, very honest by Charlie Turner as they come through turn 10 for the penultimate time in this race. Ravenscroft is trying to close the gap to Mads Riis. Last time around it was half a second. It's going to be probably at least 3/10, I think, by my reckoning. And it's under 3/10. So, and he's right on the back bumper of the Dane going through turn 3. So, who's not to say that Clayton Ravenscroft could on the last lap, if he gives it all. No, he's got the place. He's got the place off of Mads Rees going through turn 6. That caught the Dane napping there. And in all of this, Andreas Herbert is now embroiled in this battle. Dylan LaHaye's also latched onto the tail end of this and is trying to go up the inside of the Frenchman on the exit of turn 8. Couldn't quite make it work. Meanwhile, the two leaders coming through. Charlie Turner won't have a response for Iljan Brunsils. But who's going to take third? Ravenscroft is in prime position to do so. Head of Mads Rees, Andreas Herbert and Dylan LaHaye. Patrick Rundqvist not that far behind. Oh, Dylan LaHaye goes up the inside of Andreas Herbert on the final corner to snatch 5th place. But Iljan Brunsils wins the second qualifying heat here in Cinemax at the first round of the BNL Karting Series season, ahead of Britain's Charlie Turner. Nice work by Clayton Ravenscroft to steal one off of Mads Rees on the final lap. Dylan LaHaye, ever the opportunist. Nice work to get past Andreas Herbert ever so cleanly there on the final corner, with Patrick Rundqvist, Jason Lockwood, Mick Knowlton and Rick Boothorn rounding out the top 10. I knew there was going to be a battle coming from somewhere, and it just so happened that Clayton Ravenscroft went, yep, hands up, be like always the first one in class to put his hand up, but he clearly did that in terms of overtaking. But Iljan Brunsils takes the win ahead of Charlie Turner. Clayton Ravenscroft rounds out the top 3 ahead of Mads Rees, with Dylan LaHaye rounding out the top 5. Andreas Herbert was 6th ahead of Patrick Rundqvist, Jason Lockwood, Mick Knowlton and Rick Boothorn, who completed the top 10. We also had Alex Pendlebury in 11th ahead of Lorenzo Stolk. Artur Horsch finished in 13th ahead of Sam Harrison, with Nick van der Moselaar rounding out the top 15. Emily de Hoys finished in 16th ahead of Alexander Luck, Kian Sang, Henri Young, Victor Plateau, Victor Paulsen, Antoine Antier, Ben Donkin, who recovered from that nasty spin on the middle of the back straight, which put him into oncoming traffic. Anthony Overbeek, Fabian Bock, Vincent van Kerkhoven and Clementine Benoit were the last of the 27 classified finishers, with Felix Janssen pulling it into the pits on lap 5, with Georges Bersis and Brent Verheyen not even finishing the very first lap. Well, as the grid comes up on the screen in front of me, I see that someone's had a bit of trouble coming out of the pre-grid, trying to get started. The grid for the first race of the weekend for DD2 and DD2 Masters, your grid is as follows. Zander Schublak and Jan Negussens are on the front row, ahead of Sebastian de Ronde and Lasse Andreasen. Jan Schwitzer starts in 5th alongside Sweden's David Remy, with Madeleine Radney and Dionysus Livris on row 4. Marcel Steinert and Steve Bull round out the top 10, with Carl Klebot and Tamsin Germain making it a DD2 Masters front row, effectively on row number 6.